And
Another huge influence comes into your life around that time, and it's the merger. This time not of Daimler and Chrysler, but it's Fiat and Chrysler.
yeah,
And a large influence is a gentleman named Sergio Marchionne,
oh God,
the late Sergio Marchionne, who was uh, many things. You certainly could articulate it better than I could in terms of his impact on the business. One of what I would argue one of a handful of car executives throughout the last century who really left an unmistakable imprint on a couple of car companies that he worked to merge together. But what did he mean to you?
Oof. I mean, to put it in a word, 3 years on, we still talk about him. Still,
Mm.
we're always referencing him. Not, and some people didn't know him closely, but the management team, which who are, obviously owe him everything. Every time we get together, there's a Sergioism that comes up. There's a recalled memory. It just the impression he left. He taught you hard. I mean, he was like a tough love father in a way. I saw him more as a mentor elder than I did a boss. It was the strangest relationship. But he loved us, but could beat us beat us senseless in a business fashion. Didn't like underperformance, didn't like failure, didn't like egos, none of that. So he straightened us all. Not that there was much of that to deal with in the first place, because he handpicked the management team. I mean, honestly, for the first year or two, it was very scary because people would just vaporize. Uh, but then everything stabled, and then we got to know each other really well. We do a lot of board meetings in London together, in Amsterdam. Spent a lot of time on the plane with him, got to know him well as a person. And finally, he had a party at his house. He'd been building this house for 6 7 years, and he finally had a nice party. Until he passed away, honestly, it was just an awe to watch him operate. Just the faith he had in himself, the confidence. It's like he would, like a Babe Ruth, he would point out to out there and say, "We're going to hit the ball out there. Trust me, we're going to be number one in truck. We're going to be number one here." He would give us these things that we've never heard another CEO say. I mean, keep in mind, we had just come through. You skipped over Cerberus. Thank you, by the way. We had gone through private equity, which was the opposite. It was like, if it wasn't bolted down, we'd sell it. And he said, "No, no, 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 no. We're going to take all these brands. We're going to make them great again," basically. So
What would most people not know about Sergio Marchionne that you could share?
wow, he was sensitive. He's this, he has this tough bear hugging kind of guy on the outside. He's funny as all get out. I mean, people saw some of his humor on the analyst calls. He would have a few quips, but he was truly funny. I mean, we would sit there in the middle of these serious board meetings. He would stop the meeting and start pulling up YouTube videos, and we're laughing our brains out, or he would watch Formula One. We'd stop a meeting and watch the entire Formula One race, just in the
Wow.
middle of a Sunday. A lot of weekend meetings, but stuff like that. He'd play poker. He'd play a brand of poker I've never seen. It was like a savant playing poker. Just stuff, just amazing, amazing stuff. And a great driver too. One of the first times I met him, we were at Boloco. The entire management team's waiting on him. Helicopter comes. A black Enzo pulls up to the helicopter. He comes out of the plane, puts out a cigarette, jumps in the car, disappears for about 20 minutes. All you hear is the shriek of that engine, that full song. I
Wow.
was like, "That's my boss." Yeah.
You mentioned the influence. He also pushed you up.
Yeah.
He was truly an advocate for you, Ralph.
He was. He gave me a lot of, especially in the first few years, we had a lot of dinners together. He was using me as a way to come up to speed really fast. He knew I was well connected. I was young, because a lot of guys left that were, my contemporaries, because they were older and they left. So I was one of the last guys left from the old team and part of the new team. So a lot of data transfer happened. He wanted to understand the culture of the company. So we spent a lot of time together. But then he started giving me jobs. I mean, he gave me head of motorsport. I was head of Dodge at the time. I was CEO of Dodge. He had me create an SRT brand, plus still doing design. And then eventually he gave me head of all design, the global, including Maserati, Alfa Romeo, Fiat. And then on top of that, he put me on the JEC, the Global Executive Council. So I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, it was
Were
in
you
four.
sleeping?
No, actually not. That's a fact. I would never sleep because my phone would be ringing at night for the European stuff. So yeah, it was tough for about 7 8 years there. I had no life to speak of, just working. But I learned a lot. I really wouldn't change anything.